Here's something that might surprise you. ADHD isn't just about focus and fidgeting. It's actually recognized as a disability under three major federal laws, which completely changes how we need to think about support and accommodation in our society.
That's fascinating because most people probably don't realize there's such extensive legal framework around ADHD. How exactly does that classification work?
Well, under federal law, it all comes down to whether ADHD substantially limits major life activities. We're talking about impacts on attention, executive functioning, organization, and time management. And when these significantly affect someone's ability to function in school, work, or daily life, that's when it legally qualifies as a disability.
So it's really about the level of impact rather than just having the diagnosis.
Exactly right. And what's particularly interesting is how this plays out in different settings. In schools, for instance, students might qualify for one of two main types of support: IEPs under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or 504 plans, which provide specific accommodations like extended test time or movement breaks.
And I imagine these supports look quite different in workplace settings.
Oh, absolutely. In the workplace, it falls under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires employers to provide reasonable accommodations. These might include things like flexible schedules, written instructions instead of verbal ones, or creating reduced distraction environments. But here's what's fascinating: many of these accommodations end up benefiting everyone, not just employees with ADHD.
That's exactly what I was thinking, like how curb cuts help everyone, not just wheelchair users.
Right. And you know what's really interesting? There's this whole movement now around neurodiversity that's challenging how we think about ADHD. Instead of viewing it purely as a deficit or disability, it's being recognized as a natural variation in how human brains function.
Well, that seems like it could create some tension between disability rights and neurodiversity perspectives.
It absolutely does, and that's what makes this conversation so complex. Some people feel strongly about identifying as disabled because it acknowledges their very real challenges and helps them access support. Others prefer to focus on the unique strengths and perspectives that come with having an ADHD brain.
So, how do people navigate that balance?
It really comes down to personal choice and individual needs. The important thing is that people have access to the support they need, whether they view their ADHD as a disability, a difference, or both. The legal framework exists to ensure that access, not to force anyone into a particular box or label.
That makes me think about how many people might be struggling unnecessarily because they don't know these supports exist.
That's such a crucial point. Studies suggest that only about 25% of adults with ADHD actually seek help or accommodations, often due to stigma or lack of awareness about their rights. And in educational settings, many students and parents don't realize they can request evaluations for support services.
Those numbers are pretty striking when you think about the impact this could have on people's lives.
Well, especially considering that research shows proper accommodations can improve work performance by up to 60% and academic outcomes by similar margins. It's not just about making things easier, it's about creating conditions where people can actually demonstrate their true capabilities.
And I imagine this has broader implications for workplace diversity and inclusion.
Oh, absolutely. When we create environments that support neurodivergent individuals, we're actually building more flexible, adaptive workplaces that can benefit everyone. Think about how many people might work better with clear written instructions or fewer distractions, whether they have ADHD or not.
So, what do you think the future holds for ADHD support and accommodation?
Well, I think we're going to see continued evolution in how we approach this, especially as remote work and digital learning become more prevalent. The key will be developing flexible systems that can adapt to individual needs while breaking down the stigma around asking for support.
That really seems to be the heart of it, creating systems that work for everyone, not just neurotypical brains.
Exactly. And remember, seeking accommodation isn't about getting special treatment. It's about having equal opportunity to succeed. When we understand that, we can start building more inclusive spaces that recognize and value different ways of thinking, learning, and working.